Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're
Good evening,
joining
sir.
from. Just
Good
gonna let
afternoon, good
everyone,
evening, and good night.
just letting everyone flow in here. Just making sure we get everyone in here. Guys, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Adam. I'll be leading you on this nutrition journey this morning. We got so many questions in the comments. I'll be taking questions from all of you here. Daniel Ketchel's out rucking already, joining us, making me look bad and lazy, just sitting here in a chair. But he he does that all the time anyway. He's all strong and shredded.
Only because I use what we have in the app.
Saying I don't. Um, good morning, guys. Feel free to use the chat. The way this is going to work today, and I'm going to repeat myself again for the morning as people continue to filter in, is there are a lot of questions from the chat and ones that I can't get to during the conversation. I will do my best to go back in today, tomorrow, and the next day and answer those directly in the comments. Because all of you showed up here, I will be starting with questions from those who have shown up here. You can use the chat that we have to ask questions, although some of those might be hard for me to monitor while I'm trying to pay attention to you. So if I miss those, please let me know. Raise your hand, ask a question. I will let you know. I will, when I see questions, you can unmute yourself. I see most of you are muted. I hate having to go ahead and use the mute button. Everyone's got busy lives going on. You're at work, you're at home, you're doing whatever. But be mindful that if you're not on mute, we might end up picking up a lot of background noise, which can make it hard for people to here, so just keep that in mind, right? I've done it a million times where I've thought I was on mute and I wasn't, or we've all done the thing where we try to speak and we are on mute, so we'll keep that in mind. But
Just so we're clear, I have to remind Adam multiple times on our development strategy calls to mute his microphone.
it's true. Or I think I'm muted, and then I'm usually around my kids or my family or something, and then next thing they know, they hear like screaming and they think someone's dying. They're not, but life with three kids, and our development calls are always in the morning, and mornings are especially chaotic for anyone who has kids or had kids at an earlier point in time, or and if you don't, just it's in general, it's a morning chaos that you learn to appreciate, and I think uh, I am aware that I will miss this chaos at some point. So I try to appreciate it and enjoy it, even though some days I go, you know what? It'd be nice if it was maybe a little bit quieter. But, I think the silence will come later in life, and I will miss the noise. I will miss the chaos. I will miss the dependency and the love and all of that stuff. I'm already seeing the change, right? My kids are 10, 8, and I've got a little 1-year old. And my 10-year-old, who's almost 11, is already getting too cool for school. He used to come down and want to sit in my lap every morning. And I was like, "What up, Dad?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not even Dada anymore. I was always Dada. Within the last like 6 months, I'm now Dad." And it's just, can't lie. I miss being Dada. At least I got two other ones who still, you know, make me feel like they're little kids. I think most of the people are getting in here. So the long and short of this is, guys, I'm Adam, along with Ketch and Arnold. We found, run, eat, sleep, breathe everything Pump Club. I see a lot of familiar faces. So for those of you who are here and such a strong part of the village, thank you. As people are saying hello, if you're new, let people know, because I'm sure, most of the people on the call will be able to pay better attention to the chat than I will. But yes, you can leave comments in the chat. I know people have asked about that. I will try to filter through that. The chat thread starts going and winding up. There's a lot of comments that were left in the post in the app. And again, if there's anything that I'm not able to discuss today, please feel free to go back into the app, leave those comments, and I can do my best over the next couple days to go back in and answer those questions. Um, when we have topics like this where there are 100 plus questions, which we're at. Realistically, I'm not going to be able to do it, or we could be here all day, and that's why we will do more of these. But it's also why we have the app. And you can go back through. I've done probably nearly like 30 plus nutrition Q&As. We cover a lot of ground. You can always sort by likes, so you can see the most common ones. But today is really a chance for everyone to discuss nutrition, and it can be the questions that you have. It can be about using the app, and the questions you have can relate to fitness, nutrition, performance, fat loss, muscle gain, longevity, supplementation. The one thing that I will say and repeat over and over again is there is a lot that I know. There is a lot of research that I have read. I am not a doctor. I do not pretend to be. So if you have a specific condition or health issue, while I might have thoughts or opinions on things, almost always, same when someone has an injury, I'm going to say you got to talk to your doctor about that, because my job is not to sound right or sound smart. It's to be responsible to all of you and help you out. And the least responsible thing I could do is take your very specific needs and apply a general application, right? So it's not that I don't want to answer your questions. I do. It's not that I don't want to help you. I do. But the best help that I can provide is if you have a specific condition or medical need, work with your physician on that. And then we're here to support or augment or do whatever we can um, beyond that. And that's why they are your doctor. And, I'm a forehead who works with Arnold. But before I do begin this, since I might reference him a few times or even tag team him in before his own children grab him, I do want to acknowledge that the one and only Daniel Ketchel is here. He is, as I mentioned earlier, if you're new here, co-founder of the app. He is probably the most visible person in the app because he is probably the only CEO that I know that also happens to run all of customer service between him and Exxon. He is answering every single ticket. He is there. I think he's been getting up every day at like 3:30 in the morning to answer people's customer service tickets as we have so many people coming in. He does all of the Monday morning check-ins. He's truly what I consider the heart and soul of the app, um, because he's there listening to all of you, but also because he is without a doubt uh, the best one of the best success stories, right? His own journey is charted by using the app and how much his fitness and health and nutrition has improved, which has been amazing because Ketch has worked with Arnold for 20 years, right? He's had access to this, but it wasn't until the app came along that he was able to have so many insights, and it's the same type of insights one have. So, Ketch, you want to say hi really quickly as you're making us all look bad as we sit here in our desks?
Hey guys, it's great to see everybody. Looks like a packed house. I'm on my morning ruck because my kids and family are going to Big Bear this weekend for a long weekend. And I wouldn't get in my ruck, which, like I explained in the Monday motivation, is a non-negotiable. So that meant I started it at 5:30, and I'll be done before my kids wake up to make everyone breakfast before we leave. And that's how we do it in the Pump Club. So find your own non-negotiables. Adam, if it's okay, I wanted to start with Harris because he was a question yesterday, and everyone can see live how you and I deal with customer service tickets when I'm pretty sure I know the answer.
Yeah, please. I mean, jump in, give people context. Harris was on
Okay.
the call yesterday, and so Ketch has been doing a weekly call now to welcome newcomers, but everyone is also welcome. And we did. Harris was on the call yesterday. He had a question actually right before I had to jump off. I'm not sure how much longer it went because I had to put my 1-year-old daughter to bed. But Ketch, how about you pick him up to speed on what Harris asked, and then you can let him know obviously how we operate. And it's an answer that I think that applies to a lot of people who are using the nutrition tracker.
So I'll sum this up, and Harris, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, Harris is on a maintenance plan, but he checked out the lose fat plan and noticed he had the same exact servings, which we thought there might be a bug. But then I looked into his tracker on the back end because we told him to submit a customer service ticket. And I realized that, yes, he changed from lose fat to maintenance, but the starting weight and the goal weight were the same in both. And there was a 9 pound weight loss between the two. So, what I explained to Harris, I'm hoping Adam will confirm is correct, is the calculations are based on that starting weight to that goal weight. So if you enter a goal weight that's 9 pounds less than you currently weigh, you're going to get the number of servings that take off those 9 pounds. Whether you clicked maintenance or lose, you still set a goal that's 9 pounds below, which is why your servings were the same between the plans. If you went in and you entered your same weight for maintenance, you would see different servings. That's correct, right, Adam?
That is correct. And then how the plans will progress, right? So the right, I mentioned this yesterday to Harris. The nutrition tracker really does many things, but two things better than anything else, and there are a lot of additional benefits. What it will do, number one, is give you awareness into areas that you can improve, right? You will learn where you maybe are overeating or undereating in a way to support your needs. It will show you where you are consistent and where you're inconsistent and ready. Remember, the nutrition tracker is not designed to judge you. It's designed to give you clarity, and then you can decide how you want to make those adjustments. But if you're not being consistent, it is hard to know what your body can do with the food that you are giving it, right? So if we give you a plan that, let's just say you want to lose weight, and we're telling you to follow these servings and it'll help you lose weight. And if you don't follow those servings and you don't lose weight, the tracker is first and foremost going to tell you, please try to stick to this plan so we can see what it is doing. Because our goal is to help you eat as much as possible and still lose weight if your goal is weight loss, right? And we discussed this yesterday, but it is the biggest misnomer about weight loss. We think we have to cut and cut and cut, and we prematurely back ourselves into plateaus that make it harder to lose weight. So we want to find the amount of food that is the most possible that you can eat and still lose, and then see how long we can ride that. Because if you can eat more food and still lose weight, if that's your goal, that's a good thing, right? And then when you finally plateau, that's when we want to adjust. But we can't identify that threshold of the most possible with loss unless you are compliant. And that's first and foremost. So you can make a lot of adjustments. And once you are consistent, whether you are losing or not losing, here's the second benefit is that's where the nutrition tracker starts making adjustments to either get you out of your plateau, to get your results, but it all starts with the consistency and compliance. So the gap between where you are and where you want to be will be the primary setting that will dictate the servings that you get. So if someone's in maintenance, let's just say they're 200 pounds and they want to weigh 200 pounds. Logically, you would put your maintenance at like I'm at 200 and I want to stay 200. But if you cheat the system a little bit, right, and you're at 200 and you say I want 190, you're not actually in maintenance, but it's okay because we'll see the gap between what you want to do and it will start you at nutrition tracker settings that are different, right? But if you're on weight loss, if you're on weight maintenance, it recognizes that difference. How we progress you, though, the changes recommended, the aggressiveness, how we adjust protein, carbs, and fats will be different between muscle gain, fat loss, and maintenance. So as you progress along, you might see changes when you do those 2 week check-ins. So it will progress you differently. But that's why the onboarding, this setting up is so important and really being honest about what you want your goals to be, because the starting weight and the goal weight is going to dictate a lot of the initial settings and servings that you receive. And that's why it was very similar for what Harris saw, but it would progress differently. Um, and that gives you a little bit of context about the nutrition tracker, but also how to use it and how to leverage it and why it's so important that like don't view it as judgment. Be honest because we'll help you find the amount that you can eat without having to stress about all of the calories and macros. And again, because all that's happening on the back end, we've done every single calculation so that you don't have to, and that we can make adjustments so that you don't have to. But if you're not going to be compliant, if you're not going to be consistent, it's just constant guessing. And the only person who gets held up is you, right? And all we want to do is help you through this. All we want to do is guide you through it and get you to the point where you want to be. That is our primary focus. That's it. And a great question here that I'll add on because I do see it just floating in. Remember, you guys can use the comments, but if you want to raise your hand, I don't want to listen to myself. Well, I'm going to listen to myself enough on this, but hearing other people are great. You know, I see a question is like, is our goal in the nutrition tracker to eat all of the servings or just have them turn green. And so the answer is kind of like it's one and the same. There is buffer, right? The nutrition tracker does not require you to be perfect, period, because that's not real life, right? Like we obsess over these little details of like, oh no, did I go one serving over? So like if you were to like rip off the face of the app and look at the back end, you would see that our green actually has a range, right? So within that range, you can still be compliant and still be successful, and you'll see it switch to yellow or red when you're so far outside that range where you're actually no longer doing the plan, right? If you go like one serving over of protein, like that's not enough calories that it's going to like disrupt everything. So we don't want people obsessing, but we do want you to be within a range. So just understand that the way that we assess your progress requires you to log accurately. But if you don't hit the bullseye every single time, it does not mean you're not compliant, doesn't mean you're not green. The tracker will help you adjust and apply that. And that allows me to think about another question that came up that I saw in the comments of the app, which was this question of like, can I track half servings? Right. I believe the question was about a yogurt that was like 8 grams of protein and I think it was 5 grams of fat and I want to say 9 grams of carbohydrates. Right. I think that was what, right. So it's like it didn't fit anything perfectly. And there are two answers to this. Answer number one is I don't want you stressing about half servings. Right. I think it's overthinking. Answer number two is if it bothers you, you can do like Jen does. Jen Weeders from Coach Jen, and she tracks in her head like, oh, I had a half serving of carbs and then another half serving later, and that makes a full serving. If that helps you, right, you can do that. A half serving. We don't have half serving logins because I think it allows people to overthink. Um, and I don't want that. There is one exception to this rule of like, don't overthink, don't worry about it. Some of us lie to ourselves in order to make ourselves feel better about a tracker. And I know this, right? I joke about it because I don't think I'm old. My oldest son calls me old all the time. He told me he's getting me a walker for my birthday. Um, it's kind of mean, but I've been coaching people for 26 years now. Right. So my job is to both bring empathy into the room and understanding because I've seen every single issue. I've trained the highest level athletes. I've trained people in their 80s and 90s, uh, uh, young men, older women, you name it. 26 years of doing this has really helped me understand nutrition and people far better because I understand problems that I would never have, right? Helping a pregnant woman or a menopausal woman are problems that I would never understand, but doing it so many times, you learn to recognize where the struggles are, what is real, and how to help people navigate through this. But what I know from working with so many people is that sometimes honesty is the hardest thing, and that's why coaches exist to hold you accountable. Because if you're the type of person who's like, I'm going to have a half serving here and a half serving there and a half serving there, and it might not be intentional, it might not even be conscious, but subconsciously, you're giving yourself a way to overeat without having to look it in the face, right? The tracker is designed to be a mirror that allows you to have accuracy and honesty so that we can make the adjustments. If you're the type of person where you know hiding those things make you feel good. It might make you feel good, but it's not going to help you get better. And if that is the case, then either avoid those half-serving foods or log them because, again, the honesty is what allows you to peer into your life and make the hopeful, small, subtle changes that lead to very, very big differences. So, again, uh, the green has a range. You don't need to log half servings. If it's helpful for you and it doesn't make you overthink, please do it. But if you're the type of person that in your head, you're like, that was a half serving, I didn't do it, and you have like 10 different half servings throughout the day that you didn't log, your tracker is going to look really pretty. And then you're going to be upset, and here's what's going to happen. You're going to send in a ticket to customer service because you're frustrated and you know that Daniel Ketchel is waiting on the other line there to help you. And Ketchel's going to go ahead and ask, can I look at your log? Because he won't do it without your permission. And you'll say, yeah, go and check it out. And he'll see one of two things. We either see that you have not logged consistently or compliantly. So he's going to be like, you're at 40% of what you're supposed to be logging. This is why you're not losing or gaining or maintaining, right? Let's start. Can we do this for 1 week, for 2 weeks, and then we can give you an honest answer? Or he'll see it and it's 100% compliant, and Ketchel's like, all right, maybe there's a bug, but let me ask you, right? Do you have any kids? You've been eating off their plate. Have you been measuring your fats and oils? Are there snacks that you're not counting? And they'll hear that like, oh yeah, I had like 10 chips the other day at a restaurant. I'm like, and I didn't log it. I'm like, well, that's 200 calories, right? Well, I've had a couple scoops of peanut butter here. Well, how big's the spoon? That's another like 300 calories. And it's like, Ketchel suddenly like, oh, so there's a whole bunch of food. I have caloric beverages, but I've never logged a caloric beverage. Ketchel's like, I've noticed that do you only drink water? Right? And those are the things where that doesn't become an issue of overthinking. This becomes an issue of like, all right, now you're just like you're finding a loophole in the tracker. And that is it, right. Again, we're not judging. I don't care if you do this, but I do care that I want you to succeed so badly that we do these calls, we do these Q&As, we meet with you to support you because eating is hard. That's why there's so many of you here, right? We eat so many meals per day. The tracker can give you a visibility into that, and then we can guide you. So I see some hands up. I'm going to start firing these off. Raise your hand. I'll call your name. Unmute yourself.
I,
Ask
I
your
just
question.
want to quickly chime in on what Adam said about the customer service tickets. I will be brutally honest with you, and maybe that's too honest for people, but I'll get people who say the tracker's not working for me, and then I go and look, and they're at 33% compliance. And what I always say to them that seems to make it kick in or makes them quit, maybe if I don't hear from them ever again, is would you come to me if you were doing 30% of your workout and say the workout's not working? Of course you wouldn't. You would never do that. You would never consider it. But with nutrition, people will say, well, it's not working, even though I'm only doing 1/3 of it. And so every single time I get these people, I've made the same challenge. Give me 6 weeks, 80%. Hit those greens every day and tell me it doesn't work then, and we can talk. 100% of the people who took me up on that succeeded. Some of them in the 6 weeks lost 10, 12 pounds. So you don't have to be perfect, but you should be shooting for those greens. And I know people like to low key their Monday check ins, but when I see people say, I'm going to go for 4 greens this week, that really means you're going for like a 50% week, just so you know. So hit those greens. It works. And I'll be honest, if you ever think it doesn't work, I'll be brutally honest with you. Come to customer service. Now I'll let Adam go.
Yeah, Ian, I'm going to let you jump in first. I see a hand raised, so fire away with your question, please.
Hi, Adam.
How you
Can you
doing?
hear me okay?
I
Yeah,
can hear
good,
you.
thanks. Yeah, I'm just checking because I've got earphones in that I don't normally wear. So I've posted this in the app as well, so you don't need to answer it there. But my question was around my primary goal is to gain strength and a bit of muscle size, but primarily strength. I've been eating at maintenance. I'm probably around about, so my scales tell me 14% body fat. I think I'm probably more about 20% just because of how I look, and I know those scales aren't particularly reliable. My question was, am I okay to just stay maintenance calories and look to recomp, or should I be trying to eat a slight surplus to support strength gain?
Yeah. I love this question because depending on which coach you speak with, you might get a slightly different answer. Ketch and I talk about this all the time. So, it is true that like the more you eat, the more that you feel like you can push yourself harder within training. But my answer is that strength is not dependent on caloric intake. As long as your caloric intake is not so low that you don't feel like you can like get out of bed and function. And there are a lot of like nuances to this. But if your primary goal is strength, right? But then you also want to recomp. That I see two goals there, right? But the one that gives you the best chance of accomplishing that would either be to focus on maintenance or actually weight loss, right? Because recomp pushes more towards the weight loss as opposed to gain. And the longer answer to this is at the body fat percentage you're at. let's say anywhere between 14 to 20% based on your own look in the mirror and what the scale is saying. Um, you're at a weight where you are eating enough where it's going to support the progress that you want, right? So if someone is down to say like sub 10% body fat, and then they're trying to cut even more and calories are starting to get lower, right? You get what's known as like low energy availability because at some point, right, something's going to give where you're really trying to cut body fat low. You're probably exercising more, you're decreasing calories, and right, the calories that you eat in a day are mostly designed to help support the things beyond the aesthetic. It's so that your brain can run. It's so that your organs can function. It's so that your immune system can operate the way that you want, right? When people think about your basal metabolic rate, right? So the amount of calories that you burn per day, that is the majority of what makes up our metabolism. When people talk about like hacking their metabolism, it's funny because the majority of your metabolism, right, is done to just like operate your body on a day-to-day basis. So when we start cutting calories, the reason why people feel kind of crappy is because your brain needs energy to function, your heart needs energy to function, your organs need energy to function, your immune system needs energy to function, and you're not left with as much energy, calories that you're taking, and for all these things to function. When you're eating at maintenance for a 14 to 20% body fat, which are all great goals. That is healthy, right? I say when people start going above 20% from a male standpoint, females go higher because they carry more body fat. Um, right. At some point, it's less about health and it's more about aesthetically how you want to look. You are taking in enough calories for you to train. More importantly, you're definitely taking in enough calories to get stronger, right? Strength is not dependent on caloric intake as long as caloric intake is not so low that it is hard to function. And that's why like you can see like a lot of like the strongest people in the world, like the power lifter, not the let's say the world champion weightlifters, right? There are some of these people who are 135, 145, 155 pounds, and they can move an incredible amount of weight, and they are right, they are not loading up on calories because there's not that dependency. So I would say that for your goal, and the question was like, Ian wanted to gain some strength, but he also wanted to focus on recomp, but he was worried, am I eating enough to perform better? And he's anywhere between 14 to 20% body fat. The answer is either on a maintenance plan or be on a weight loss plan and then track that because the odds are that if you go on a gain plan, gain works really well for muscle mass, but usually with some muscle mass will come a small amount of fat gain, which is going to work against you. And again, you will not need at your body fat the additional calories to support the improvement of strength. What you need to do is follow the program and then progress as the workout shows you, right? The biggest thing about strength is don't break the program. We're going to talk about this over and over again. Don't add the extra sets or extra reps that aren't there. Everyone always thinks they need to do more, more, more. No, just follow the program and then progress as it is, and that is where the strength will come from. Otherwise, doing the extra is just going to build up fatigue that will slow your recovery, that will make it harder for you to become stronger over time. I hope that is helpful. I see Matt with the hand up, and then Lauren, I'll go after Matt. Matt, what's going on?
Hey, just a fundamental question, and it's simple, is how do you pick your goal weight? I mean, anytime we go to a doctor, they're constantly talking about BMI. I know your opinion and more importantly, Ketch's opinion on BMI. Um, I especially if somebody hasn't been that goal weight for a long time, just the basics of how you would recommend someone pick that number. It's a challenging number, and I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. But if I go to the BMI table, I'm still overweight. So how do you balance that?
Yeah. Um, I'm not gonna, I'll always be honest with people, right? If I don't have a great answer to this, and Ketchel can kind of weigh in on his. I don't love the scale, right? Because I think a lot of us get obsessed with numbers with one reason or another, right? It's either like a weight that we used to be or a weight that someone else is, or we make up this thing in our mind. And I know it's important for setting the tracker. So what I usually try to help people do is I'd rather help someone accomplish a primary goal and see how they feel and then adjust. Because someone might, right, here's something, I'll give you an analogy and then it will help you back into where you want to get. One, I fundamentally believe that success breeds more success, and a lot of people quit prematurely because A, they don't know how to recognize success. I think Arnold writes probably once every month about the importance of recognizing and seeing the small wins so that you can keep going. But part of that is recognizing, all right, I got all of my greens, like Ketchel said. It wasn't just four, right? I got all of my greens for the weekend. That's success. I logged all my workouts. That's success. So, right, change does not immediately happen, for better or for worse, right? None of us woke up one day and we're in the bodies that we didn't want that we have just by accident, right? Like it was with repeated behaviors that got us to that point. And the same thing happens for the positive changes that we want. So it takes time, it takes effort, it takes consistency, but you have to see that so that you get rewarded. But then you can make that even better by creating realistic goals that you can achieve and then use that as a stepping stone for the next one. And that's important too, because when you accomplish the first goal that you set, right, you might find that the number you had in mind isn't necessarily the one that you want to pursue, right? Because we had a lot of people who set a 50-pound weight loss goal, let's say, and then they lose 30 pounds. And they suddenly realize that the body that they're in at 30 pounds less is not necessarily the goal that they had set, but it's everything that they wanted. They look the way they want, they feel the way they want, the function the way they want. And then they're reconciling. We're like, all right, I got to lose another 20 pounds. And the question becomes, why? And it's like, well, I had this goal weight in mind. And I'm like, well, do you like how your clothes fit? Do you like the way that you look, that you feel? Do you like the diet you're on? And a lot, it's like, yes, yes, yes. So it's like, why are you pursuing this number if it's just a number? Now, I know the tracker can be difficult for people. So what I tell people, whatever your goal is, whether it's maintenance, whether it's loss, whether it's gain, set an initial goal, right? And it doesn't have to be like 1 or 2 pounds, right? But like set a goal and then accomplish that goal and then see how you feel and then progress from there. Because Matt, you might find that like if you're feeling your best right now at this weight, I would rather put you on a maintenance plan, right? From a nutrition standpoint, pick the training program that best fits your goals, and then see how you continue to progress. And then we start looking at the things that matter, right? Because you everyone should be visiting with their doctors or taking blood panels to see like, is there something under the hood that needs adjustment that might require weight loss, right? Like because most of the health issues that we have are a proxy to how our bodies individually are managing and carrying the weight that we have. So I can't tell you what a good weight is for anyone, but I can tell you that we all know if we need to gain or lose weight depending on what our goal is. We all know that what is either a smaller term goal on the way to the bigger one or not. And I would say start with the smaller term one, accomplish that, and then reassess. Do I like how I'm feeling? Do I like how I'm performing? Do I like how I'm looking? And then do I want to stick at this? Do I want to change this? Right? And because I think a lot of ourselves just we get so obsessed with the number. And I see this in both directions. I see a lot of people who choose a muscle gain plan, right? When they really just want to look better naked. And again, there's no issue. They want to look better naked. And right, I've dealt with actors before, I've written about this before. Like the oldest trick in Hollywood is if you want to look like you gain 20 pounds of muscle, right? Lose 10 pounds of fat. And if you really want to believe it, go and look at like so many of like Ketchel's transformations. When Ketch looks his most muscular, he is his lightest. It's not right. Like Ketch, you can chime in on some of this, but like when Ketch looks like, oh my God, did you gain 15 pounds of muscle? And it's like, no, man, I actually lost 10 pounds. The scale has never been lighter for me. And right, like because like shedding that fat reveals the muscles. So the goal weight is going to be dependent on the things that truly matter, which is not the scale. It's how you perform, how you feel, how you function, and then ultimately, right, what your blood work shows to make sure that you are healthy, right? So that is what I would use, Matt, especially if you're feeling good right now. It's then about how can I continue to train and perform. And if all of your blood levels coming back, your doctors, BMI, the one thing I will say about BMI to add to this, my opinion is that BMI can be very uh, accurate or informative for a sedentary population, and that's who it was designed for. So it is not worthless data. But if you exercise, especially if you resistance train, if you have more muscle on your body, right? It is going to be very, very misleading because BMI does not take in ratio of lean mass, muscle to fat mass. So more muscular people, fitter people tend to have a higher BMI. For a sedentary population, it can be incredibly helpful and much more accurate than people want to give credit, but we are trying to create an active population, a lean population, a muscular population, because these are the things that we really know matter for health, right? One of the best ways to live longer, or I should say, increase your likelihood of living longer or having better health span, being more active, not being frail, not falling to the inevitability of aging, is strength and muscle mass. And that doesn't mean you gotta walk around like a bodybuilder. It is muscle mass relative to your body. You could be 130 pounds, right? And have a higher ratio of muscle to fat, and that makes you perfectly healthy, right? So it's not about the ultimate amount, total poundage of muscle on your body. It's the ratio of muscle to total body weight, and then your strength. And as we already said, strength is not dependent on your size or your weight. You can get plenty strong. Relative body strength is so important without needing to gain more. So use that as the way to guide what this goal weight is that you want to accomplish. Um, and don't become so obsessed with the scale. I think that does far more. The scale will directionally point you in the direction of how you want to eat or how much you need to consume. And then how much you need to change that scale weight depends more on how you look, feel, perform, function, and how your body is reacting to that weight than anything else. The rest is just a number.
I'll
Thanks.
just I'll just chime in like how I because I'm going through this right now. And 6 weeks ago, I put out the challenge for everyone. Hypocritically, it's a no number challenge, but since I am the lab rat for the app, I still have to weigh in constantly. Um, and I was fairly lean. The scale said 15% body fat. The mirror probably looked a little higher than that, I would say. And I didn't know how to lose. So I just said 10 pounds. And that's what I would generally recommend. If you feel like you're fairly close, gut is if you say you want to lose 3 pounds, you're probably going to get about the same servings as if you want to maintain. So I like 10 pounds and I just hit that goal now 6 weeks later. And I'm kind of just keeping it going with the same servings now because I want to see how lean I can get and because my performance hasn't suffered yet. I'm still lifting more than ever. So I'd pick something that's not so small that it's not going to adjust you. If you want to get, tell people 10 pound weight loss goal and evaluate when you get there. You can keep going or you can not. But I'd pick 10 pounds if you want more visible abs or something.
You guys are starting to
Lauren?
experience what I get when Ketchel is on a call and he just drops and sounds like he's underwater. This guy is just, we got most of it, Ketch. Don't worry. Lauren, you're up. Maybe Lauren, maybe not. All right, Lauren, I'm gonna jump to someone else, but if you, oh, there you are.
Hi, sorry, I don't know why that wasn't working. That was
No
weird.
worries.
Um, so I know you guys have addressed this yourselves as part of like your own personal struggles, particularly Ketch has, but I am struggling with nighttime snacking. Like I am one of those people who I've done macro counting for a really long time in my life. I've done it on and off. To be honest, I'm not using your nutritional tracker. No offense, it actually is very good, but I'm using a different macro tracker because I like to be able to calculate down to the gram. I'm usually pretty good about it during the day. I'm very good about my servings during the day. I swear to God, it gets to midnight, I can't sleep, and I am shoving carbohydrates and fat in my face until I can sleep, basically. How do I combat this? Because I'm so good during the day. I even budget for snacks, but I just can't stop myself at night.
Um, the there's a fantastic book by some guy who addresses this. That's me.
Is
It's
it
right
you?
back there. Yeah. That book where I have like 18,000 copies. It's not because no one bought it. It's just because I like showing it off. So my favorite tip here, and it works for most people and it does require discipline, like most things, is the open kitchen, closed kitchen, right? So I, like Ketchel, am a huge nighttime snacker as well. Love to say that, after 7 o'clock, and I talked about this yesterday a little bit, I'm just ravenous. I seem to have an unlimited capacity to eat food, and the irony of all of this is, most of you read the newsletter. The newsletter is my fourth child, and it takes up far too much time. As much as everyone thinks that everything now is mistaken for AI, the amount of time that I labor on this thing every single day is maybe slightly sick, but it's because I want to nail everything the right way and communicate it effectively. So I am up late most nights working on the newsletter. I was up till like midnight last night working on the newsletter because the lead item for today about the study that is going around saying like lower protein is the key to a longer life. It's so nuanced and was such like a important study to express without like, right, the easiest way to discuss this stuff is to spend like 2,000 words talking about it, but I usually got to do it in like 300. And that's just like you write it and then you rewrite it and then you read it again and then you see something. And now this is how the sickness works. I read it and then I can anticipate where someone's going to be like, oh, that sounds like AI. And I'm like, all the AI writing is based on how humans wrote initially. They just bastardize and abuse certain writing techniques. And like it's AI and oh God, it shouldn't be bothered by it, guys. But as someone who like sits and writes this every day, I am. But the funny thing is, I'm up and I'm too old to be up at midnight, you guys. I can't. I can't. I get up too early. I got too much going on. I can't be up at midnight. The only way I stay awake is I'll just like feed myself because like it's hard to fall asleep in like a bowl of food, and it's really not a good habit. And so
Be
the
honest,
answer is
I'm 47 and going through menopause. I can't sleep, so it's all I want to do. It's just eat.
yeah. So I understand this, and this is where the discipline comes in, and I understand is what I'm saying is because like I have fallen asleep at my computer and but I can't continue to make the same mistake. Open kitchen, closed kitchen was based on a study that I'll elaborate on in a moment, where it's essentially you set a time of the day where you open your kitchen. So before that time, you are not eating. And for some people, breakfast and early mornings are an issue. And then you will set a time when you close the kitchen, right? Now, where this comes from was a study that essentially looked at people would start their eating hours 3 hours after the moment they got up, and they would stop their eating 3 hours before you go to bed. The 3 hours does not matter, right? What matters here is that you are creating boundaries and barriers that do not allow for overeating to occur out of boredom or habit, right? So for me, what I'll do is that like my knowing that I'm up later, knowing that I uh, eat with my kids pretty early, but I'll sometimes like have a snack after that. My closed kitchen happens at 8 o'clock at night, right? 8 o'clock comes. I'm not eating after 8 o'clock. I just don't care. I know my schedule. I know I'm eating. It's just not happening. Are there exceptions to the rule when I'm traveling or if like I'm seeing friends that I haven't? Yes, there are going to be exceptions to the rule, but like exceptions means they happen rarely. They don't happen consistently. By setting this closed kitchen time, you can drink beverages after that non-calorically, but you're just not eating and you hold the hard line. And what I loved about the study that this rule was based on, right, is the fact that when they set this like you start eating 3 hours after you wake up and you stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed, they didn't ask them to change anything else in their diet. They didn't tell them to cut calories. They didn't tell them they got to eat more or less. They gave them zero nutritional guidance. They just said, create these hours. And what I say is like, this is good in life, right? We should all have boundaries on work. And I joke that do as I say, not as I do, because Ketchel and I have absolutely zero boundaries on work. There's no open or closed work. It's just like we're we're always working. It's not the healthiest thing, but we love you guys. We love what we do. We're very, very privileged to have something that just like, right, we're competitive with wanting to make this place great and help all of you. But work boundaries are really good. Food boundaries are the same way. An open closed kitchen helps prevent the type of thing that you are talking about. And it just, right, a lot of eating happens out of boredom, right? It happens out of dealing with stress or emotions. And it's like you're not actually fueling your body. You're just taking in calories that your body does not need. So I would start there and, you know, create a time that works for you. You have to be realistic. right? So in the example of like if you made it a 3 hour rule and you're someone who, some people go to bed really early, right? If they go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, Ketch goes to bed pretty. I wish I got to bed as early as Ketch. He's also up at 3 a.m. answering everyone's customer service, but Ketch is like if I try to reach Ketch after 8 p.m. and it's an emergency, I might need to like fly a stealth bomber over his house because it's done. I get the do not disturb. It's over, guys. Ketch is shut down life and I can't get a hold of him. And that's that. But like if I told Ketch that he had to like close the kitchen at 5 o'clock, it would suck because he would never have dinner with his family, right? So it has to be practical, but it also has to be real. You have to hold that line. I can't tell you right now, like a night like last night around 11 o'clock where I'm like trying to type and it's like just becomes like because I'm like falling asleep on my keyboard. All I want to do is go grab some food and I can't. I go up, I go walk around, I like listen to some music to wake myself up and I sit my ass back down and I do the work. You have to hold the line on that. And that's it. So it's just like the moment that you start making exceptions and excuses when you know that this is the way that you eat is the moment that you never solve the problem. And then we can start identifying like, are there other things earlier up in the chains? Are there meals that you're eating that are making you hungry? Is there something you're doing either at dinner? And usually it's earlier in the day. Is there something you're doing earlier in the day that's making you so hungry later at night? Is there a sleep pattern, right? Especially for the perimenopause, that's then like sleep gets disrupted. And if you can't sleep, right, we know that hormonally things change that increase cravings, right? But if your cravings are really only at night, there's so much that we can do to make it more likely that you're full. And then just like we find things to distract and help you out to like get you through that, whether it's like drinking like a non-caffeinated tea or hydrating more. It's like there are things that we can do to help with that, but start with the open kitchen, closed kitchen. Pick an hour from waking time and sleep time. Could be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And that also will improve your sleep. Another thing that people don't realize is the closer that you eat to sleep, the more it makes it harder to fall asleep, and the more it makes it harder to stay asleep. So some of the times we're like, oh, I can't sleep because I'm in perimenopause or menopause. And that is real. I'm not right. That happens and stuff. And some of the time it's because you're not sleeping and you're now eating. And now the more eating is making it harder to fall asleep. So we've created a vicious cycle where the behavior that's actually making it hard for you to sleep is not the kick in the teeth that is known as menopause or perimenopause. It is the fact that you are eating and your body is still digesting that food, and then it's making it harder for you to fall asleep. And this is where, like a lot of times, something is happening real in your body physiologically, but it's changing your behavior. And it is the behavioral changes that are guiding the symptoms and the struggles that you are having, not something that is broken within you. So, cutting off that food is going to improve your ability to fall asleep because part of the problem, I can guarantee it, maybe not all of it, is the fact that the more you eat, the more you're going to struggle falling asleep.
To be honest, carbs make me lovely and sleepy, so that
Yeah.
might be why I'm doing it. But yeah, you're not wrong. It's like you peered into my kitchen at midnight and realized exactly what I was doing.
I just want to chime in with two things since I've done this for 6 weeks. But first of all, Adam sometimes forgets when he shares studies like that how many questions I'm going to have to answer. So I want to be 100% clear for all the people who are about to send in a customer service ticket asking if they really shouldn't eat for the first 3 hours of the day. Right when I wake up in the morning, I have a protein shake and blueberries. I do not have an open kitchen hour. I eat as soon as I'm up. Don't stress about that. It's more about finding the times where you have problems and closing the kitchen. There's no
Correct.
magic to the first 3 hours of the day. You don't need to submit a ticket and ask me if you're screwing up everything by eating then. The second thing, Lauren, is like, I'll just tell you, like, this answer kind of sucks and I'm sorry, but it really just sucks. Like, you just have to gut it out when you stop eating snacks at night. Like, I just went through this. It was miserable the first few weeks. But we've shared all these studies in the newsletter that kind of gave me hope, that kind of explain your mindset, your vision doesn't mean anything until you prove to your brain that you're actually doing those things. And so I call those plant your flag moments, right? The third night after I said I was stopping night snacking, which, by the way, I said for like 2 months prior to this, Adam knows, I'm going to close my kitchen. And I kept not closing my kitchen. And there was always a reason.
downing licorice. And I'm like, what happened to closed kitchen? And he's like, I just got to finish one more bag.
And there was always a good
Licorice is
reason.
so good.
That Aussie licorice kills me. But there was always a reason, right? It was like, well, I'm in the middle of this hardcore strength program. It helps me. Well, if that was true, then 6 weeks into quitting, I wouldn't be stronger than I was now then. So I was just lying to myself constantly. And what you need is that moment where it's really hard and it sucks the most. Mine was 3 or 4 days into saying, I'm really done now. My friends and I all went to the US's World Cup game against Turkey at SoFi Stadium here in LA. So I was with all my bros. We showed up at the game. I realized it's 5 p.m. now. We're all going to grab food. Let's find something healthy because I'm in the middle of this challenge. We walked all around, found a poke bowl, pretty good. And then I realized now I have to go to my seat at a big sporting event, the World Cup. And if I'm going to stick to this challenge, I'm drinking water for this entire soccer game. And I thought, I bet I can do that. And it became a challenge to myself. And to be honest, that's the moment where I was like, I'm going to make it through the 6 weeks. Because if I can do this, I can do everything. And you need those moments where it doesn't need to be a World Cup game, but it's that night, that time you always give in where you say, not this time. And that's where the proof goes to your brain. Like, oh, Lauren is actually not the type of person who snacks at night. Lauren is the type of person who says no. And it's a shitty answer because all it is you have to gut it out and it's going to suck. But I can tell you 6 weeks later, it does work. It doesn't mean it stops. 2 nights ago, I turned to my wife and I was like, I could fucking kill for some licorice right now. But
it does get easier. And this is the thing that I
it's
will add.
easier each time.
So much of our eating is just based on habit, and we have trained ourselves to eat a certain way. This is no different than a lot of people ask about intermittent fasting. The long and short of intermittent fasting is it's a tool, but it's not magical. It is not superior to any type of caloric restriction and stop, period. So much of what people tell you about intermittent fasting is bullshit. And this is coming from someone who wrote a New York Times best-selling book about intermittent fasting in 2013. And who did intermittent fasting for many, many, many years. And I stopped doing it, just like Ketchel, because I just wanted to have breakfast with my kids, right? I thought, like, this is stupid. I'm never going to share breakfast with my kids. Um, but when people were doing intermittent fasting, they're like, I can never do this. I need to eat when I wake up. And then after a week or two of not doing it, you find that, oh my goodness, I can now do this because I've now retrained the expectation. So the craving might still come sometimes, but for me, I have now retrained what I do after 8 p.m., where it's not like I never have it. For me, I love like kids' sugary cereals. Give me like a bowl of like Frosted Flakes, and I'm just like the happiest little man in the world. It's, oh my goodness, all sugar cereals are so good, you guys.
Cocoa
It's not
Pops,
like
man. Oh
uh,
my God, Cocoa
all
Pops.
cereal for days. You, it's not like I never have those cravings, but the consistency of the craving is very inconsistent or rare because I've now gone so long where I just retrain myself. I no longer expect that food, right? And we have to understand that we are creatures of habit, but that means any habit can be changed so you can become a new creature. So Ketch made a great point that it does suck at first, but then it gets easier. And getting easier doesn't mean you never have the craving. And if you do have a craving, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It just means that like sometimes like there's stuff that we like and there's going to be something that's pushing you towards it, but it 100% will get easier once you get over that hump. So like there's a little bit of white knuckling, there's a little bit of towing the line, and then it gets easier. I'm going to keep moving with these questions. I did see one in the chat that it has such a quick answer. Someone asked about like fruit, if you have to eat your fruit earlier in the day because it's got sugar and then you can burn the sugar off. No, you can eat your fruit whenever you freaking want. People believe that like there's some like theory at nighttime where your insulin's more sensitive, and if I go to bed after eating sugar, like all that sugar is just going to be deposited as fat. That is 100% made up. That is not how our bodies work. That ain't it. That's not it. And guys, no one's getting fat off of fruit on top of it. The fear around fruit is wild to me. I understand it because so many people who are pushing the fruit fear message. Eat your fruit when you want. We give you lots of fruit servings in the app. Fruit is delicious. Fruit is healthy. Fruit is nutritious. Um, Timing of it does not matter. Steven, you've had your hand up for a while. Question goes to you.
You touched on some of the stuff I wanted to ask, and then I just thought maybe I'd share some of my own experiences with the tracker. Like maybe it's a little different for people to hear from average Joes compared to the fitness guys. But the questions relating
Ketchel is
to
such an average Joe. Don't take that. That's a compliment to him. Ketchel loves being an average Joe. I wish that I was more of an average Joe. Everyone looks at me like things are so easy. Oh, he's the fitness guy. It's hard for us too, you know. But yes, Stephen, I love when members share their stories and their experiences what work for them. So please
so the
go ahead.
question I have, I'm going to be switching my goals to probably strength and maintenance. I've lost all the weight and everything else. I really want to get stronger without the bulk though. That's kind of where I'm at now. And it's for whatever reason, I seem to have a lot of trouble building strength, especially in my arms. Like I've been stuck on my bench presses forever, but I know it's more of a Nick call maybe question, but so I guess is it just a matter of changing those settings in the app and then see where I go, or
Yeah. So the the tracker will adjust based on the goal that you pick. Right. And again, the initial servings might not change, but how it progresses you based on your progress will change. So if you are on a gain or a loss, you want to move to maintain, changing that, and then you might want to reset current weight and goal weight. Those variables, current weight, goal weight, and setting will all influence the servings that you get, and then also how we progress you, which is again the real magic of the tracker. A lot of people are like worried about the initial servings that they get, but like that's worried about where you're starting rather than where you're going. And we're taking you where you want to go. So how it will progress and how it will adjust depends on those three variables. And then
okay.
from right, and you will have right the calorically there will be enough to support the strength goals. And then it's just more about understanding like what are certain lifts that you're having struggle with in terms
Yeah,
of
that part
getting strength.
I'm one of Nick's calls. And just,
Yeah.
I guess, my own real world experience. So, just a little bit of background. So, I started weight loss probably back in 19. Um, I did well on my own, lost about 40 pounds before I joined the pump club, but I had been stuck at the same weight for like 3 years. Um, and even the first year of the pump club, I didn't lose a whole lot of weight. Didn't like the way I looked. The nutrition tracker changed everything. The nutrition tracker changed everything. Like it's unreal. It took me about a month to really figure it out, like how to track it, or not how to track it, but how to use it. And what I found works the best is you got to set up like an eating plan or a pattern or whatever you want to call it. I call it a pattern. I know people call it an eating plan. I try to hit 50 to 60% of my proteins in the morning, not in one setting, but over the course of the morning. Carbs, I tend to go for around the same thing, around 50% of the carbs in the morning. It's a lot simpler to go into your final meal of the day only needing a couple carbs or a protein or two proteins. One thing I've found lately that has really helped, there's a lot of hidden fats that you're probably not thinking of or counting. You got to really look at the labels and what's there. Like I've lost 43 pounds since the tracker came out. Like that's previously I've been stuck at the same weight for 3 or 4 years trying to lose weight. So it's possible. Like it's, and if you're in doubt, like ask Arnold AI. Like I probably ask the same questions. Where it gets tough counting protein sometimes is, and I know that the hand method that you guys use works, but sometimes the cut of meat's a little thicker. Sometimes it's a little bit thinner. You can buy a cheap kitchen scale and weigh it and ask Arnold AI, and it'll tell you exactly what it'll even log it for you now. Like that's a pretty cool feature. I'm not gonna lie. If you're still having trouble, because I kind of sketched this out myself in the past, so I sketched down all the breakfast foods I like to eat. I typically don't eat lunch, so I didn't. I've got a couple lunch items, and I sketched out all the foods I like to have for supper. I put all the nutritional values beside each food. So that when you wake up in the morning and you look, oh, it's a training day, I've got a target of 9 proteins. And I feel like having this for breakfast. You could it's easy enough to fill in the blanks the rest of the day and figure out what you have to eat to get to 9. Like I start my day with protein shake, 2 scoops. I use a protein powder that has almost 30 grams per scoop. So it gives me 3 proteins right off the hop. It's pretty simple. like using the 20-20-10 method, right? Eggs and toast is also, that gives me a protein and a fat. Actually gives me two fats because I put butter on my toast. You start doing that, it becomes very easy to hit your targets. There's been a lot of comments in the chats where people are saying they're having trouble hitting this target or that target. Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming at first, and I struggled with it too for a long time, like for the first month. But if you kind of map things out and come up with a plan or pattern or whatever you want to call it, it becomes very simple to follow each and every day. I actually had a streak of 80, I think it was 83 days of green apples in a row. And what took me out was I had 3 beer one week, and it gave me a red on the day I had the 3 beer. It's possible. It's doable. It's actually very simple, but you got to be dedicated. And the snacking conversation, the snacks used to kill me. I just don't buy them. I keep vegetables in the house. If I got a snack, I'll grab some vegetables or something. Because if the snacks are in the house, I'm eating them. So I don't even buy them. That's the simplest way for me. But yeah, it's really possible. Once you get the hang of it, it's very simple to get your green apples, like extremely simple. And the people that not only designed the app but built it, like I've spent 30 years in IT. I give you guys a lot of credit because a lot of people try to do the KISS methodology in apps. This is the first one that I seen that really did it.
See, mama.
And for those that don't know, the KISS methodology is keep it simple, stupid.
What?
The app is so simple to use. That's all I got.
Thanks, Stephen. I mean, that
was an awesome testimonial.
That was a great testimonial. I want to just share it with Exxon and the Povio team because they do an amazing job. We throw a lot at them. I feel like my family, my kids know Exxon because they hear his voice so often. The team works incredibly hard on it. We work, there's not a week that goes by that we aren't trying to improve something in the app, but hearing from people what you do, how you make it work. And I think the most important part you said is like, there's trial and error with all of this. And I think, um, you know, simple and easier can be conflated, right? Like, uh, eating well is simple, but it's not easy, right? Especially when you're trying to figure out what works for you, when you're trying to eat foods that like you still enjoy, when you're dealing with cravings and habits and behaviors that have been going on for a long time, especially when you're adding a new variable of exercise, which might change your hunger. And what you've discussed is right, just different ways that you've learned to use the tracker and learn to plan, and then lean on the simplicity of it.
I still eat all the foods I used to eat. I maybe don't eat them with the frequency. I still have my pizza. I still have my burger and fries. One change was instead of having 8 or 10 pierogies in a sitting, I have 2, maybe 3 now. Ukrainian.
And that's the magic, right? When I used to coach people just one-on-one, right? The first question I would ask people, this was just number one, I was like, all right, what foods do you enjoy eating the most? Right. And you would get all right. If it's Ketch, it's the Aussie licorice, right? It's cake, it's burgers, it's pizza, it's all that stuff. And then I'm like, all right, good. I'm glad we established this. And everyone's just expecting me to be like, you're done with it, right? And I'm like, we're keeping it. And there would always be this look of like, like, no, you didn't hear me. I just said I love eating pizza and burgers. And I'm like, no, we're keeping it. Right, because we base plans around restrictions so much that if from day one you start from a position of I'm never going to have this, I'm never going to get this, you're going to crave this. I shared, it's been so many years since I wrote You Can't Screw This Up Now, but there's definitely a study that I reference in there where they put people on diet plans and they like essentially gave one group like no parameters on what to eat, and another group they like told them specifically the foods that they cannot eat. Do not eat this food. It was for 1 week. And the people they told not to eat the food overate their calories by like 170%, right? Because like what ended up happening is like you're just telling people you're never going to get this, and all that does is increase the friction, stress, anxiety, and desire to eat it. So if you start from a position of, all right, it's not like I'm never getting to eat these foods. And there might be a period, right? Like in the app, we try to take the first like phase to like track your food, not because we don't want you ever having treats or desserts or anything. It's just that we want you to have visibility in where you can be better. And if you're like gaining weight because you just happen to be eating cake 6 times a week or takeout foods 8 times a week, it makes it harder for you to focus on the primary habits. But Stephen's right. Like the idea isn't that we remove all the foods that we love, it's that we find a way to enjoy those in a way that works for us while building core habits and eating behaviors that are the structure and scaffolding of your diet overall, where these other foods always have a time and a place. So if you're new to this or if you're old to this, I do think that's important. That's why, again, the consistency and the accuracy is so important because it makes it so much easier to identify what are the small changes that will have you point you in the right direction while still allowing you to eat a lot of the foods that you enjoy. We're going to bump across, we're going to keep going. Christy, been waiting so patiently. Thank you very much.
Well, I have a total newbie. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I have a total newbie question. Earlier, you were giving the example of the yogurt for the nutrition tracker. Can
Right.
you take something like that? Can you give us an example of how you would track a complex food like that in the tracker?
Yeah, so we give people the rule of thumb that we give people if they are like taking packaged foods that have right like grams of proteins, carbs, and fats in the back, you're not sure how to do it. This is not by the letter. Again, we they're the equations on the back end of the nutrition tracker are much more complicated than anyone wants to give them credit for. That's why like we handle that so you don't have to see those numbers and make you freak out. But a good rule of thumb to understand how a serving is created is that one serving of protein is 20 grams of protein. One serving of carbs is 20 grams of carbs. One serving of fat is 10 grams of fat. And by understanding that each one of those servings, you're essentially creating an equivalency from a calorie standpoint because 1 gram of protein is equal to 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So this is why a lot of times fats sneak up on people because fats are 2.5 times more caloric than a gram of carbohydrates or a gram of fat. So then if you were to stack up the 20-20-10 rule, 20 grams of protein is 80 calories, 20 grams of carbs is 80 calories, 10 grams of fat is 90 calories. That ends up essentially being a wash, right? So like each one serving has the same caloric amount. So if you're then looking at a mixed serving food and you understand the caloric or macronutrient composition, the protein, carbs, and fats in it, you can use the 20-20-10 rule to easily assess, well, what is a serving? This is why, like, sometimes you'll have a food that has like 20 grams of protein and say 6 grams of carbohydrates. And I'm telling people, like, all right, that 20 grams of protein is long as it's a serving of protein, but that 6 grams of carbs, I'm not sweating it. I'm not worried. I'm not going to worry about 24 calories, and neither should you, because that's all it is, right? And that's what I was bringing up earlier, where it's like if you find yourself eating 10 different, or you have 10 servings of the thing that has 6 grams of carbohydrates, then you're just hiding from yourself and you know you're doing it, but it's an easy way to look at the tracker and feel better about yourself. I think that is the exception to the rule, but it does happen to people. But that is how you use it. You use the 20-20-10 rule to identify for, again, those packaged foods, what it comes down to. And it makes it an easier way to assess, all right, how many servings am I having? Is this a mixed meal? How does that fit? And a lot of times, like when you're then cooking or when you're making meals, you just have to kind of compartmentalize what this is, right? Like, all right, what did I put in there? I put in, right, a starch. How much of the starch did I put? I put in a protein. So even those mixed meals, if you were to like break out and essentially view it as like a recipe list, you know what you've put in the meal, and then you can determine how many servings of those go in. And as was brought up by Stephen, like we work. Guys, the amount of time and right now the amount of money we're spending on Arnold Intelligence is it's significant. The money issue is ours to balance out, but like making that thing smarter, allowing it to adapt and adjust and understand. And again, it still has like we're working on right now where sometimes we're telling it to log something with fruit and it's like logging fruit the wrong way. And it's such a simple thing, but that's why like AI is a beautiful tool, but it's so flawed. And we're trying to build Arnold Intelligence in a way that is really accurate and really helpful. You can express what you're eating to Arnold Intelligence and ask it to break down the number of servings so it can log it for you. So that tool is there and readily available. And like we built that internally. And if you're worried that it's doing something wrong, please send us a ticket because all of those tickets allow us to look at how we can fix and improve that. But for so many people who are using it, That's like the easy button of like rather than getting frustrated or not sure of how it works, you tell Arnold Intelligence what you're eating. You want to be accurate with it, and then it will tell you the servings and help you log it for you. And that's just a beautiful and you can again communicate and go back and forward with it to make sure that like it's an accurate representation of what you want and what you need. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. That helps a lot.
Wonderful. Ty. Did we just lose Ty?
It didn't unmute for me. Okay.
You guys are. I'm not muting and unmuting. You guys are adults. I trust you. Everyone's using their mute buttons today. Fire away.
I thought I hit the right button, but apparently not. So I've been struggling for the last year since I've been still recovering from my Achilles tear. That's been about a year ago, and I tried to jump out and then jump back in right where I was, and I found that was actually not great for me. I made mistakes. I'm willing to admit that. So I'm trying to do kind of a little bit of a restart for myself. And specifically in the nutrition thing, because I like right before I tore my Achilles, I'd lost about 20 pounds. I was kind of hitting a really good groove. Then with trying to keep up with my workouts and eat and everything that got messed up, then I let my nutrition get messed up, everything like that. So I'm trying to just kind of refocus in. And I guess my question is yes, I want to lose weight, but is it more important for me right now to really focus more in on what I'm eating rather than how much I'm eating to make sure I'm getting like the right mixture of macros and everything like that before I start to decrease amounts to worry about losing weight as I'm getting back into working out and getting back into the lifting and everything like that?
Well, what's the goal?
The goal is to lose some weight and get stronger.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean everything right. Arnold talks about vision matters, right? Vision determines goals, goals determine habits, habits determine behaviors, behaviors determine what you do consistently to like then build right back up. Right. So the short answer to a very like complicated question is that like the foods that you choose to eat and the amounts that you eat both matter. Trying to separate those two things is a misnomer. And this happens to a lot of people where they will look and right, eating for general health is far different than eating for fat loss. You can gain fat by eating too much of healthy foods and stop, right? Because at the end of the day, this is just a caloric ledger where a lot of things will influence, right, what creates a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus, right? But at the end of the day, you're either like consuming more than you are burning or you're not. And if the goal is uh, eating to lose weight or eating to lose fat, just focusing on eating the right foods and not focusing on how much of those foods you eat is not necessarily going to push you closer to your goal. And that can increase stress, friction, frustration to the point we were talking about before. It doesn't mean you have to instantly go into this like deep caloric deficit, right? Because the goal with weight loss is to start with understanding what is the most amount of food I can eat and still lose weight, right? I will say that to them blue in my face because people either don't believe me, you're giving me too much food, um, or it challenges too much of what they believe is needed for weight loss, or challenges the idea of like I can't have carbs. Carbs make me fat. It's not true. It's not. If you don't want to eat carbs, if you don't like carbs, that's fine. But what I can tell you, most people enjoy carbs. And if you completely cut carbs out of your life, you're going to crave carbs a lot more, and you're going to break the plan, right? Uh, Most people tend to get much leaner on a high carb diet than they do on a higher fat diet because it's so much easier for the fat calories to increase. Both work though. Low carb diet works, low fat diet works, a balanced diet works. But here's what happens when you go to this extreme restriction, which is why I'm saying you should be choosing a fat loss plan, create a modest goal to get you going in the right behavior where it's just like you can start right. The modest goal does two things. One, it allows you to see success. Two, it allows you to start building the habits that you're talking about of eating the right foods, especially if you're trying to get back in the swing of things. What a lot of people do is create this like massive uh, restrictive plan. Like I want to lose 100 pounds. Even if that's the goal, that's fine. That's what we've had multiple people, right, lose 100 plus pounds in the app, right? I've had some lose 200, right? But oftentimes it's not like I'm going to start with a 100-pound goal, right? It might be 25, it might be 50. And doing that is going to allow you to start with higher amounts of food. So the caloric deficit is going to be less, the amount of food you get is going to be greater. And then when you finally hit a real plateau, and a real plateau is oftentimes going a month or more without weight loss. I don't want people freaking out over like 2 weeks without weight loss because like it might just be like when you weighed yourself or how you slept last night or the meal you had the night prior, right? Weight fluctuation is totally normal. It's you got to zone out and look at the overall trend, right? That is what matters most. A lot of people will cut carbs and cut food and then they lose some weight and they get really excited. So they decide to cut more before they hit a plateau, right? Or they do the first 2 weeks and they start freaking out like I need to start eating less when they haven't even been compliant. They haven't even ate like we told them to. So they cut and they cut and they cut and they never really actually met a plateau. And then they stall for 2 weeks and then stall for 4 weeks and then stall for 6 weeks. But all the while they've been cutting. And then they come to us like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, how much are you eating? And I'm like, well, you never knew how much you could eat and lose. And now you've cut so much that you've backed yourself in a corner where you have prematurely cut out carbs and reduced fat and reduced protein. What am I left to pull for? Right? The idea of fat loss is you always want to have multiple levers to pull on. I want to be able to reduce protein or carbs or fats or increase activity or change up these other variables, which is why like you prematurely do not want to make these changes, right? You will find how much you can eat and lose weight, and then you don't do anything. Do less and ride that wave. I don't care what you are thinking, what you are worried about. If you are losing weight with what you are eating, do not cut more calories. Do not cut it. Just keep seeing because sometimes people are like, I'm eating too much, but the scale is going down and my clothes are getting lighter. Don't change anything, please, because it's working. And then you go 2 weeks and no change, and but you're consistent. Don't break the consistency because you might be stay consistent and then whoosh, more weight goes off, right? Weight loss is not linear. It doesn't always work that way. If you get to that 4 to 6 weeks, and you'll see this in the tracker where it is stuck, now the tracker will adjust. Okay, you've been at the same weight. We're going to go ahead and we're going to downshift, say, a serving of fat. We're going to see what happens. No, no, that's too little. Just stick to it and do your workouts. The weight goes down again. I should change it. Don't change it. Stick at this weight. Oh my God, I lost again. Maybe I should cut. Don't change it. You're losing weight. You're doing nothing. Eating more than you think you should. Right? And this is how we don't find ourselves like, because people eventually get their calories so low. And they are. And then I do have to almost like reset your metabolism, which isn't a thing. But what I'm actually doing is like, there is something known as metabolic adaptation. And your body will adjust because what you have to understand is like the bigger you are, the more weight you carry, actually, the more you burn because the majority of your metabolism, we talked about this earlier, is based on your body weight. Your basal metabolic rate, your resting metabolic rate makes up anywhere from like 60 to 75% of the total amount of calories you'll burn per day. And again, this is the thing that allows your lungs to work, for you to breathe, your brain to work, all of that, right? The majority of your metabolic, it comes from that. The rest comes from like the thermic effect of food, right? The composition of what you eat. Protein is the most metabolically active, anywhere from 20 to 30% of the calories you eat from protein are going to burn up. Right? Then carbs and fat, but those are like much less metabolically active. Like it's a rounding error. It's why people who tend to eat higher protein, they can get away with more because right, for every 100 calories of protein you eat, like 30 of those are going to be burned up. So only like 70 will stick on you. It's also why fiber is so great, right? So your activity levels are going to matter, right? The thermic effect of food, other things can like influence it, but that's primarily it, right? The majority is like your body. So like a bigger body, a bigger engine, think about the fuel you need to put into a truck versus like a little sports car is very, very different. As you lose weight, as you go from 250 to 200 or 200 to 170 or 150 to 130, your body is now smaller. Your body now requires less energy. So your body downshifts. So people are like, well, what was working for me before is no longer working. And I'm like, yeah, because the majority of your metabolism, that 60 to 75% of your metabolism is now burning fewer calories because at 150 pounds, your body was burning more calories to fuel a 150-pound body. At 130 pounds, your body is now burning fewer calories because you are smaller. So the amount of food you might need to eat, what you were eating at 150, might not necessarily help you out at 130. But that's, again, the nutrition tracker takes all of this into mind, which is why you have to follow it and be compliant because we will guide you in the right way. Because again, we want to help you eat as much as possible and either lose weight or stick at the weight or gain weight if that's the goal to help you accomplish that outcome. So that is why, Ty, getting back to the primary question, I want to start by getting you closer to your goal, and your goal is weight loss. So that means start with the fat loss track. Start with the modest goal if you know that eating the right foods is a problem, because we're trying to train two things at the same time. We're trying to get you to eat a little bit less than you are right now, but we're also trying to help you get back in the pattern of eating like better foods. So
Mhm.
having the smaller goals means the caloric deficit you'll be in will be smaller, so that won't create as much strain. So you can focus more on eating the right foods. And then the tracker will guide you the rest of the way. When you hit that first goal, the 5, 10, 15 pounds, whatever it is, you see where you're at, you see how you're feeling, and then you reset that goal. And then the tracker will recalibrate. But hopefully by that point, you're eating more of the right foods. Because again, right, eating healthy foods can still lead to weight loss. So if you just eat those healthy foods, but you're on a maintenance plan or you're just like you're not really focused on loss, uh, the real story is that friction and frustration would build up. And at the same time, you're not building the right habits of slightly reducing what you need to eat to see the outcome that you want. And so much of what I want to protect against is the frustration that causes people to quit, the confusion that causes people to quit. And that's why I think that is the best approach for you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Adam.
Awesome. Bart.
Hi, Adam. Glad you're back from holiday.
Oh,
I
thanks.
still have 1 week. Uh, um, I want to say thank you for putting money on Arnold Intelligence and to Povio for their work. I'm actually quite impressed he can understand or have macros for traditional dishes or even dishes in different languages. I don't need to translate everything. But
We're
do you
slaving away on it, Bart. We're trying our best. It's not all the way there,
Yeah,
but it's a labor of love.
yeah. I did like scan some labels for him, put a photo and correct him sometimes, but he remembers, so that's good. So my question is, do you have like a food database, or is he just Googling some? Because I know it's impossible for you to put all the dishes and put differences, but he could probably know that the yogurt from X brand has this and this and this. So does he Google it? Do you have a database for it, or
We are building our own internal database, and the beauty is ever since we created the nutrition tracker, we've been asking people to input what meals and foods and things that they love. And um, Ketch had to drop to take care of his family, but he can speak to you better than anyone about the inbound amount of emails that we receive, both to the customer service, to the tickets through the app, and then the email account that's attached to the newsletter. Every morning I wake up to a mix of people thanking us for the newsletter or telling me why I'm an idiot. It's really just a beautiful, beautiful blend that we live in of, we've upset someone with something that we have written.
I'm
But
laughing.
I, but so we've been building that from day one. So we know the foods that people want, we know meals that people want, and then we're building a database, and we're pretty much doing that each and every month, and that's why it's not perfect. And then when something is missing or when something is tracked incorrectly, we then use that to continue to train. So much with Arnold Intelligence is training and retraining, and then finding where it misunderstands something, and it's a process that honestly never ends. It's probably kind of like being a parent. You never really stop being a parent. I don't think we're ever going to stop being a parent to Arnold Intelligence because we have to keep on feeding it information. But yeah, I think if you just open it up to all information, it's more likely to get those AI hallucinations that are so tough. And that's why we don't want to just open source all information and train Arnold Intelligence on anything. It's why we don't even like referring it to like AI. It's Arnold Intelligence, right? This is a data set of information that we have cultivated and curated based on everything Arnold has written and shared, based on all of our conversations, based on all of his Q&As, based on the studies that we've shown in the newsletter, based on the foods that you guys are tracking. And as more people use that tracker, right, we can turn around and use that information to become more informed. It's the beautiful thing that, the questions and feedback you give us only makes what we're creating for all of you much stronger and much better.
Yeah, thank you for it. I was on the beta program for nutrition track, so I know it goes a long way. So that's good to know because, like, for me, I'm a parent too. Like the worst thing with AI is he won't say I don't know. He will hallucinate something and you need to correct it, but we talk with him. He needs more polish and more. So glad you're doing your own one. The first one you rented or another company that Dan was doing wasn't that good.
That's why we built it internally, right? So we were like, you know what? We want to do it. We got to do it ourselves. And again, like everything else, labor of love. But I'm glad you enjoyed. So thanks, Bart. Michelle,
Hi there. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm new. I just started. I did put a question in the question area today. Um, and you might have answered it already because I joined a little bit late. Sorry.
No
But
worries.
I'm 55. I run like a fiend. I work out and I eat whole foods, but I've got that meno belly that I just can't get rid of. So I started using the tracker, which is great, by the way. So simple, easiest one I've ever used before. I have to give you kudos because I think it's fantastic. Um, but I mean, up to now, I'm always eating whole foods anyways. I'm not a sugar cereal person, or, I don't snack on chips or anything like that. It's just that meno belly won't go away. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or like for us women that are going through that's part of our life.
Yeah. One, I have a ton of empathy for it because there's so many women in very similar situation. Um, the the frustration and friction when your body just starts changing on you is very real. But my short answer is there's definitely a solution. And the second answer that I'm gonna give in a moment is probably gonna help more than anything that I can say. But it's understanding that when you're going through menopause, and I don't need to tell you this, and I don't need to mansplain this, right? A lot of things happen in your body, but the things that are happening in your body are affecting uh, mood, sleep, appetite, and behavior, as well as energy, in ways that affect the things that you do that allow you to lose weight or function the way that you want. If you're not sleeping as well, cravings increase, energy goes down. There's a hormonal cocktail of changes that are occurring. So then we have to anticipate how this is going to affect your ability to exercise, your hunger, your consumption, the way that right, bloating and carrying water weight is very, very
It's
real
terrible.
during this. So it's not even it's an optical illusion some of the time where it's not even fat. It's just that as you're going through this, the scale might read differently sometimes, or your body might read, but there's a difference between water retention that are a byproduct of the hormonal changes that are occurring and actual fat. But my second tip here, and then we can, this conversation will be ongoing, is that the best thing I can do is introduce you to people just like you. We talk about the experts here to help you, but the community of people who have gone through this, who have learned so much and have changed, is what makes this place invaluable because the people here are not only relentlessly positive in a way that still, I don't want to say surprises me, but just makes me so happy, but they support one another. So I know right now because I saw, and if she just disappeared on me, I'm going to be so upset. But April, are you still here? I saw you earlier.
Yes, I
April, you want to
am.
unmute? Guys, this is April. If you don't know April,
Hello.
April's I don't want to call her team mascot of the Pump Club, but April's one of our ultimate success stories. So much success that Arnold flew her out to go train with her. Uh, April knows all about the battles with Menno Belly, the poodle.
A
April,
boodle.
I'm going to give you the floor to at least share a little bit about who you are, your story, and also what's worked for you because
Okay.
My goodness, is your success incredible, and are you so incredibly strong? And also a
Oh,
tennis
please give me
champion,
more. Come on.
tennis champion. Incredible.
So,
Go ahead, April.
don't go there. I had a beast of a match last night. You'd have loved it. Michelle, g'day. I'm April. As Andre said, Wombat. I started 3 years ago. Couldn't do a single lunge. At my wit's end, there's a video of me on the Pump Club Instagram page in tears, just reliving the fact that if I had not been on the Pump Club, I think that I would be, I don't know where I'd be. So depressed, probably crying every single day. You know the feeling. It's just awful. Hot flashes, heart racing, nausea, no sleep, and it just compounds. I just wrote in the chat really quickly, it's not stubborn belly fat, it's stubborn behavior. And I did not know that until I started with Arnold's Pump Club 3 years ago. And I can tell you that one of the biggest, well, first of all, Adam saved me with his book. If anybody has not read Adam's book, You Can't Screw This Up, you absolutely must read it. We've got a lot of information that's in the app itself that's fantastic, but that book is my Bible. I'm going to have Adam sign it one day, but I'm so embarrassed for everything that I've written in the book and underlined. I was at my absolute wit's end. And then when I read his book, it saved me. So that's number one. Number two is I started not worrying about anything, and I started focusing on getting strong. And from that, and using this community, people like Ben Riley, who have lost 200 pounds, Peggy O'Brien, who is the kindest soul you'll ever meet.
Really is.
There's just so many people, Adam, Ketch, Jen, Nick. I mean, it's just off the charts. And of course, Arnold himself. And working out with Arnold, it was funny because I said to Arnold, look at my boodle. And he said, I don't see anything. And I kind of got a little pissed off. I was like, it's right there. He's like, no, it's not. It's like you're seeing stuff that's not there. And I think we're so ingrained and so trained, especially once we get to menopause, that we're convinced that all the bullshit that's on that's on social media. Oh, your metabolism is slowing down. Oh, your hormones are all screwed up, and this is what's wrong. And to a certain degree, yes, but quite frankly, once I started really focusing on lunges and really focusing on moving my body in ways that I never had before, and seriously deadlifting. I mean, seriously, like hit 300 deadlift. Once I started doing that, everything changed. Everything changed. I went from 41% body fat down to 28. I'm hitting close to 26. I'm trying to get as close as I can to 24 before we go back to the Arnold Sports Festival next March. But I don't obsess over it anymore. I just move and I just lift. So, Michelle, I know where you are. I know exactly how you feel. And I will tell you, stick with the Pump Club, stick with what Adam is saying, read his book, dedicate yourself to yourself with strength, and the rest will come. My sleep improved. And then, of course, basically what happens is you snowball back the other way. Instead of snowballing downhill, you suddenly snowball uphill. So I wish you all the best. I'm around all the time. April Austin Images on Instagram. I'm every week here in the chats. I just annoy everybody every week. So I'm always here. If you have any questions, please just reach out. And Joe and everybody, I mean, everybody's amazing in here. Even Ketch. Just teasing. But yeah, and Adam and
Thanks,
everybody.
really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, look, just keep at it. I mean, I've been here for 3 years, but I can tell you I had most of my success my first year. I mean, I really did. So just hang in there. Just keep going. And, might just get one lunge, or you might just not get a pull up. You just keep going and going and going and going. You're a Terminator. Just do it. Okay,
And
bye.
then use the groups. Tag me in the groups for the conversations, because again, people are able to share a lot of different tips that work, because right, the tips are helpful because it just gives you different things to experiment with, and then I can guide on terms of what will move the needle, and really identifying where the struggles are so that we can like help you through it, and recognizing when some of it, which is it's still, excuse my language, a bit of a mind fuck, right? Sorry if anyone's got kids around here.
Oh, it's
When you're
true.
doing the right thing, but you're holding on. So there's a lot of things that I can then discuss about like how you can identify when it's just like, all right, I'm retaining more water, and this is an optical illusion. I have to look beyond this, keep doing it, because then like you'll wake up one morning and it's gone. Like it was so funny after 1 year at meeting April Arnold Classic, and I was getting like the boodle updates of it shrinking, it's going, it's dying, it's gone. And it was more of just like being able to drown out so much of that noise that again makes you
Yeah.
almost quit, makes you feel bad, leans into some of the behaviors because you feel like nothing's going to work. And that's where like
Yeah.
that optical illusion was hiding the work and effort you're putting in right now. And then because you get so frustrated, you changed up your behaviors and you gave into it. And then those behaviors actually push you further away from the goal. And that's why the
Yeah.
support that will help you deal with those difficult moments and the guidance to make sure you do the little things that can push you in the right direction can make all the difference. Because the one thing that I do want to express is that every single physical change that you feel as a perimenopausal or a menopausal woman is real and stop. And all of the research, and this is the ones that is now being done by female researchers, not by male researchers, women who have taken over the research area shows that if you are finding ways to eat the right foods and if you're finding ways to strength train and more and to push your body, all of the outcomes that people are worried about, I cannot sleep, right? I'm going to gain weight, my metabolism is slow, none of it holds true, right? It is because your bodies break down and change in ways is that change the behaviors. And it is those behavioral changes that lead to the dramatic shifts in the body because it can feel like such an uphill battle. And we want to make it feel a
Yeah.
lot different. So I'm thrilled that you're here. Do not be shy. Lean on the people in the group, lean on myself and Ketch. And Coach Jen is amazing. There is no more empathetic woman. And God, her biceps are so much bigger than mine. It makes me so jealous. It's just an incredible community of people who are here to help you. So
But
please,
it is a good point, though, that you have about the change of behaviors, because I was running 4 miles a day about four or 5 times a week and doing the weight training. So I stopped running because I wasn't sure if that was spiking my cortisol and preventing me from seeing
don't worry
any.
about cortisol spikes.
It's all rubbish. Don't.
Don't worry about it. It's like this is what happens, right?
Yeah.
It is a predatory industry, and I'm gonna tell you why. Um, do you know one of the things that makes your cortisol spike the most?
No.
Exercise. Is exercise good or bad for you?
It's very good.
Right. So if cortisol was bad, but exercise makes cortisol spike, how can all cortisol spikes be bad? It can't. It is one of the worst offenders of taking a mechanistic change that happens in the body and creating fear that moves people away from the behaviors that help them the most. Your running is good for you. Your cortisol spike after running is good because that is your body reacting in a positive way because you put a strain on it and now it is going to become stronger and more resilient, more adaptive, and you're burning calories. And all of these things are good. And we create so much fear because it sounds smart and it sounds sciencey and it makes me go, oh no, poor me. And it moves you away from the things that work, right?
Hmm.
And again, it's hard when you don't have the same energy. It's hard when you suddenly find yourself craving foods you never craved. Or the trick with like menopause and perimenopause is you can eat the right things and the hormones leptin and ghrelin, which control hunger and satiety, get thrown off, where you're eating the right things and you still find yourself craving more food. And you're like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? And nothing is wrong with you, but you still have to find ways to train around the reality of your body is working against you a little bit. And if you know how to push back the right way, it can help you. And this is where, like, even for some people, resistance training, strength training, whether it's higher reps or lower reps, the art of strength training also helps to, for a lot of people, blunt appetite. So it helps fighting against it. So getting you in the habits and behaviors that will work with your body and then sometimes work against it in a good way because your body's kind of giving you the double middle finger and making your life harder than it needs to be can put you back in control and can be so incredibly empowering to know that, like, no. It does not have to go this way. It does not have to be this way. Your body is not quitting on you. You just need to give it something different. April going from 41 to 27% body fat. At April, I don't want to throw out your age, but if you want to,
63, motherfucker.
at 63 is incredible. But April is part of an army of people who have seen the exact same
Yeah.
thing. So if nothing else, Michelle, jump in the app and say, like, hey, I'm worried about my cortisol spikes. Do I need to worry about this? The best thing I might be able to do is to clear the road of all the things you're worried about so you can focus on what matters. And then we'll help you through that. But it is predatory to the point that you are worried about so many other things when you got enough to worry about. You got to worry about the body, the changes in your body. You don't have to worry about a cortisol spike from the run that is probably doing more for your fat loss, your physical body, and your mental health than anything else. And instead, you're replacing it with this worry about, like, oh no, how much is my cortisol going up? You don't need that. We got enough things to stress about. That, like, that's the funny thing. cortisol is a stress hormone. We're making people stress about the stress hormone, and your thoughts about cortisol are probably creating more stress than the actual cortisol increase from exercise in and of itself. So
Worry about first set mindset. That's all you got to worry about. First set mindset.
bring in the intensity into your workouts. So I'm happy you're here. I'm happy to help.
Good luck.
We see this all the time,
Thank
but
you.
yeah, thanks so much, Michelle. Carlee, another Pump Club superstar. Guys, Carlee is so incredibly strong.
The beast, the beast,
So-
right here. Bench
so
press is
strong.
800.
Thanks. I will say I have not been feeling strong recently, but it's because I'm just really hard on myself.
Same. I get it.
Yeah. So, Ketch was having a conversation in the chat about when you hit like, oh, I did a training day today, and you increase like the amount of protein and carbs. I kind of always struggle with that because I'm not entirely sure like if I'm having a day where I'm like, wow, I just do not feel very strong, but I did resistance training, but maybe, my shoulder wasn't feeling great or whatever the situation is. And I didn't lift nearly as heavy as I probably could. Do I still put that as a training day? Like what factors do we need to take when we're like, hey, I did a resistance training day and I should eat more? What should we be paying attention to?
I mean, I think one of the most confusing things for people is when you exercise and you're not like PR or getting stronger, it's very easy to say like, oh, that wasn't like a workout day because you've done better. Uh, but as the more that you exercise, running, strength training, you realize that like every day is going to be a little bit different. And the goal, while it's to be your best that day, being your best that day doesn't mean that you always will perform your best. So you have to be able to separate intensity from output. If your intensity is there, but the output isn't the same, the intensity was still there, right? So some days you're not going to be as strong. Some days are not going to be as great. That is just a reality of life. But it doesn't mean that you didn't work out. Doesn't mean that you didn't exert effort. It just means on that any given day, you weren't as strong. So a training day is a training day, right? And that's it, right? And so like in the words of Arnold of like not overthinking, if you showed up and if you pushed as hard as you could, but as hard as you could just wasn't as strong as you want to be or you normally are, it doesn't mean that the effort still wasn't there. It means that there was something else that was prevent you from being stronger, whether it is something that's going on in your life, whether it's that you've been training really hard or maybe pushing like towards failure or beyond failure in a way that you're not recovering as well. There are a lot of different variables that will affect the progress that you have. And then some days, like mentally, you just don't have it, right? Or there's been other stuff going on that that's going to happen. Like it's just that is a reality of life where like we experience this at work. Sometimes we show up at work and we all feel brilliant, or we show up for our family and kids and we feel like we're so happy and optimistic and can handle anything that life throws at us. And other days, like your kid asks you a benign question, you feel like you want to snap on them, or like you sit there at work and you stare at a screen and you can't get it. Or me, I have to write and I write the first sentence 73 times and I'm like, I'm the worst writer in the world. I want to throw my computer out the window and I'm like, the newsletter's never getting done. This happens, right? Training is the same thing. You're going to show up and you do your normal routine and you're like, why am I so freaking weak today? And that will happen. And if it happens the next time, it's like, all right, maybe it's a couple bad days. If it happens like for an entire week, right, this becomes another conversation of like where you go through a week or two and all of your workouts are trash. What's going on that's causing that to happen? But because you're still exercising from a nutrition standpoint, right, be fueling your body, treating your body like you're exercising and showing up because you are. And then I think some people wonder like, is this a workout day? Is this not? I think a lot of it depends on like the intensity and the duration. Like if you're going for like a walk, that's not. If you're pushing really hard, it can be, right? And then it depends on the goal. Like Ketchel will only log his resistance training days as workouts. Ketch is also in a fat loss mode where he's doing, and he's kind of an aggressive fat loss mode where he's doing rucks on his day off. So he's not breaking his program. This is a form of cardiovascular exercise, but he still considers that an off day. If he was in maintenance or gain, he probably would like up the caloric amount, but because he's focusing on cutting more, he keeps that as an off day and it creates a caloric deficit, but it also allows him to just like enjoy those free choice meals, those cheat meals, whatever you want to call them, with a little bit more freedom. But Carlee, I think the main thing is if you show up for your workout, and even if it's not the best workout in the world, you still want to fuel your body, especially because like if part of what might be tied to that is a nutritional thing, if you're not counting it as a workout, right, you don't toggle the training day, you could end up creating that situation of low energy availability, right? Where like you're now not feeling yourself, and that could be affecting more of how you bounce back and recover, and it could be the thing that helps you like get back to the strength that you want. And that's why I think that's important. And then, right, ultimately, like there's so much that can go into like, well, the timing of my meals, when am I eating? Can I be making slight adjustments so that I feel more energized going into my workout?
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Owen.
Hey Adam, hey community. Thought I'd quickly jump in. I put a comment on the article, but I thought I'd jump in and ask a question now. Adam, we've been speaking about intermittent fasting and that sort of thing. So over the years, I've tried and done all sorts of things, and lost quite a bit of weight, lost quite a bit of muscle too, probably. Where I'm at now, I'm 5 days into the new app. Thank you, Arnold. Birthday special. It's a fantastic opportunity to get back in, and I'm loving this community. It's so great. This time last week, I was on 1 meal a day. And now I'm doing the 3 meals a day. I'm following the nutrition guide. I'm asking Arnold Intelligence all sorts of things. My dilemma is, and you can hopefully relate, Adam, coming out of intermittent fasting, keto, primal, all that sort of thing, I'm carb-fearing and fat-favoring. And so I need to just get some tips on how to shift that mindset and increase my carbs. I'm actually not hitting the carb numbers on the tracker, and I'm exceeding the fat, and I'm just trying to dial things around, obviously the nuts and the walnuts and macadamias, all those sorts of things, avocados. So how can I, from your experience with your coaching, how can I shift my mindset? My energy is fantastic now. Obviously, I'm eating 3 meals a day. My protein's up. I'm 48 and want to rebuild my muscle. But yeah, any tips on how I can approach that? Thank you.
Yeah. One, glad to have you here. And the one thing that I would say to everyone, and we're building things into the nutrition tracker that will allow even more flexibility for people to adjust based on personal dietary preferences. It's the hardest thing to really build in, but I'm not against a ketogenic approach, or if you like a paleo or primal approach. I'm not. I'm actually very nutrition agnostic. What I'm against is the belief that there is a singular way to approach your diet, right? There are many, many different ways to achieve differing outcomes. And I think some are easier, more supportive than others, right? People who tend to eat, you can subsist on 1 meal a day, but I think you feel a lot more energized on 3.
Yes.
You can be just fine on a very low carb diet, but if you were training hard, I think you will find that you feel and perform much better on higher carbs. And higher carbs doesn't have to be crazy, but like carbohydrates is the body's preferred energy source. And most people don't understand is like it's actually much harder for your body to store carbohydrates than it is to store fat. Your body more readily stores fat, and that does not make fat bad, right? Fat is not evil. Carbs are not evil. Protein is not evil. But the idea of like, oh no, carbs make us fat fundamentally goes against our body's chemistry, where it is much easier for our body to store fat as dietary fat is fat tissue than it is to store carbohydrates, because your body wants to use it, your brain wants to use it, your heart wants to use it. Our entire energy system, the preferred energy source is carbohydrates. So much so that in the absence of carbohydrates, if you cut all carbohydrates out of your body and you're just eating protein, something called gluconeogenesis, that's a blah, blah, blah word, but all it means is that it's now going to turn your protein into a carbohydrate, which people are always like, oh, I'm like burning more fat more effectively. But like, it's kind of funny that you're doing something. You're cutting all these carbs out of your body just so your body can go through a more complicated process to still create a carbohydrate for yourself. So why are you avoiding these carbs if your body is still going to go ahead and do that for you? Or I think I need to go higher fat, because when I eat a higher fat diet, there's greater fat oxidation. And what that means is that, oh, I'm burning more fat. But fat oxidation is not mean you are burning the fat that's on your body. You're not burning the belly fat or whatever. Fat oxidation just means that you are burning the fat from your diet, which makes more sense. If you are on a ketogenic or a high fat diet, you are consuming more dietary fat. So your body is going to burn more fat because that's the energy source you're giving it. But people are like, oh, higher fat oxidation, more fat burning. No, because when we compare the low fat diet to the low carb diet, the amount of true fat burning in terms of the stored adipose tissue in your body is almost identical. So I say that to make it clear that so much of diet is figuring out what works for you, but also understanding that a lot of what people buy in and believe of like this nutrition superiority doesn't exist. The funny part is like nutrition is kind of like religion, but if you like talk to people in very different camps, they agree upon like 80% of the stuff, and like the 20% they disagree on is just like this brutal, unnecessary battle. Uh, the thing that you're going to tell yourself is one, be patient because you have learned behaviors, you have learned phobias, fears, anxieties, thoughts, and beliefs around food that are now ingrained in who you are. And just like any other type of change, that change is difficult. That change takes time, and that change requires patience. What I'll say then as well is like start with the foods that you feel most comfortable eating, and if you even need to lean on those or eat those repetitively to get you in a position where you don't have to fear certain foods as much, do that. We had a study, I think it was the other day, where we talked about how eating the same foods actually improves your microbiome diversity. A lot of people were like, oh no, if I eat the same foods, it's going to be bad for my gut health. Not the case. People also who ate the same repeated meals, I've got another study coming up that's going to go in the newsletter, tend to lose more weight, and that's because they're more likely to be consistent. And like anything else, like, you know, I have three kids, so so much of like my ability to communicate things is thinking about how I communicated with my kids. When they have fears about something, we have to walk through like, well, it's like a fear setting exercise of like, well, what's the worst thing that happened? Why do I have this fear? How real is it? And like, can you almost, instead of running from it, talk yourself through what the anxiety is tied to, and then identify whether it's real or imagined. And I can tell you, like, the fear or discomfort of having carbohydrates is completely imagined. And if you've stripped your body of carbs for so long, there will be a period where you need to uh, kind of adapt back to it, right? The oldest trick in the book was that people will go on low carb diets, and carbohydrates, in a good way, help you hold on to water in a hydrating way, right? Our bodies are primarily water. Carbohydrates can pull water into the muscle cell, into the body. That's a good thing. If you starve yourself of carbs completely, and then you go ahead and like ate a loaf of bread, uh, in the short term, this is only in like a carb starve situation, you might increase water retention because that bread, think about it, is like soaking up water like a sponge, and you wake up the next day feeling bloated, and you're like, I knew it. The scales change. I knew it. The carbs were bad. I'm like, it's not that the carbs were bad. What was bad was that you cut all carbs out of your life, and then you reintroduce something new, and your body's like, whoa, I haven't had a slice of bread in forever. And it's just like, it's not that the bread was bad. It's just like, it's something new. Just like if you haven't worked out in a while, and you go ahead and you do a couple squats, 10, you wake up the next day and your body's like, whoa, my legs are lit up. You try to sit on the toilet and everything hurts. It doesn't mean the training was bad. It means the stimulus was new. So if people are coming from a position of I haven't had carbs for a while, I know I haven't had carbs for a while, it's no different than a new training stimulus. So you have to give yourself time to adjust, time for your body to recalibrate. And if that might help for a lot of people, it does. View it no different than training, and you'll start to find the foods that do and don't work well for you. Like Arnold always says, the gym is the lab, so is your kitchen. The kitchen is a lab to find like what foods work for you, but like no. Uh, and guys, I would tell you if it was any different, right? I even told you that I'm fine with a low carb plan or I'm fine with a low fat plan. Both are good. But know that all of these foods have a place in your diet, and so much of it is about finding the foods that work for you. So kind of work through that. Like there are things that are completely fine that I just never eat because they don't sit well with me, or they're like or my gut doesn't like them, or whatever it is, and that's fine. So as you're easing your way back in, don't feel like, oh, I know all of these foods are healthy, so I should eat them. No, start with the foods that like work okay, even if it's like not even the healthiest food, like getting a little bit of carbohydrate in from a different source, and then you can like graduate and move around. That will help you. And that's what anyone should really be doing. Like experimenting and finding the things that work out for you might not lead you to the fastest results, but they will lead you to the farthest and the longest lasting results. Talked about this with April. She's referenced it before. I talked about it with everyone here. You'll overestimate what you can do in the short term, and you will underestimate what you can do in the long term. And if you stop viewing this as a sprint and start viewing this as just like something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, because like, what is the alternative, guys? Truly, what we're just going to decide that we're no longer going to take care of ourselves. Like, what happens if you stop doing this, which is why we want to find something sustainable. A nutrition program, a workout program. These things are like finding a spouse or a significant other, right? It's someone that you want to be able to be around most of the time. It doesn't mean you're gonna like them all the time, right? Anyone in a long-term relationship knows that like the person you're with at some point you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, right? But it's the person you want to be around all the time. Like you're having a relationship with your food, you're having a relationship with your exercise. If something isn't working, that's what when people like if someone loves pasta and they go on a low carb diet, I'm like, what are you doing? You're gonna break up with this diet. You guys, you guys are not compatible, and that's okay. But like the compatibility is important, and that's the way you should look at it because like otherwise, like it's like we all got to take care of ourselves, especially the older that we get, the more we have to take care of ourselves. So the earlier we start, we better. But no matter what age you are, if you are building those things that are going to be consistent and repeatable, the healthier they're going to be, the happier you're going to be, and the more that all these habits are going to serve you in a way that you want.
Thank you, Adam. And I'm
Does that
already
help?
feeling it, and I'm staying away from the scales for a couple of weeks. It doesn't matter, and I'm feeling great. So thanks for the
I love it.
tips.
I love to hear it. Guys, I'm going to take one more from Chris, and then we've been going for almost like 2 hours here. I'm not going to lie. I got other work I got to do for the app, and I'm pretty hungry, guys. I want to eat
Yeah,
breakfast.
but Nick did 4 hours the other day. You got to beat 4 hours.
Nick is the world's or America's strongest man. I'm fine admitting that he's just stronger than me. What I will do though is I will, if you have more questions that have not been addressed or you didn't ask here or ones that were in the chat that you put in there, please go into the app, put them in the comments. Over the next 2 days, I'm going to be going in and answering as many questions, if not all of them. If there are repeated questions, I might answer one, but not the second one. So just like I want you to scroll through. If you see a question in there that you want an answer, don't just repeat the same question, just like it, because we can sort by most like questions. So it's always easier for everyone because we can like surface the questions, but answering your guys' individual questions is super important to me. I know some of you don't want to raise your hand, but you're probably thinking something or wondering something, or I said something, you had a follow-up question. That's what the app is for, right? It is an easier way that if you don't want to speak up, if you had something you wanted to know, helping all of you truly is the thing that I enjoy more than anything. There are no dumb questions. There are no questions I've heard. I've heard every question a million times, and I'll keep on answering them because if you have them, that means you're confused about them, and I want to eliminate that confusion. So, Kris-Anne, I'm going to answer your question. We'll wrap up. I appreciate everyone showing up here, and then please do make sure you add those questions into the app so I can get to them.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, sorry, I'm at the gym.
No, that's
So,
not a bad thing.
yeah. So I am 55. This is week 65 straight of doing programs and showing up every week to do the work in the app. And also Peggy and April, you all are my heroes. Like this last
Same.
year has been amazing. Also amazingly difficult. I had a really bad injury. I tore my hamstring off my pelvis in a mountain bike accident. And coming back from that was not just physically challenging, but mentally challenging. And so obviously I've got my workouts dialed. I'm showing up, I'm doing the work. I've seen my body composition change. My clothes have changed. I did start HRT and gained 6 pounds immediately, but we, won't talk about that. But I have muscles where I didn't know my body had muscles before, but I struggle with nutrition. And listening, I've been here since 9:20 East Coast time on the call listening, and I'm really motivated. And this is what will happen. I read the emails, I read the articles, and I nod my head and go, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. And I have also every excuse in the book for why I fail with my nutrition. And then I get dejected and stressed out and all of the things that you said that you don't want us to be. And my question is, if I'm showing up and I'm doing the work and I'm seeing body composition changes and I'm not using the nutrition tracker, but I am seeing differences in my body, will I eventually get where I want to be? Like as far as like weight and strength, because I'm back to riding bikes. I ride road, mountain, and gravel. And one of the things that I struggle with is because I do carry some excess weight, it makes my cycling much more difficult. I ride with people 10 or 20 years younger than me and really struggle, to do 16 miles an hour on a 50-mile ride. And I know if I were 20 pounds less, I would have the strength and stamina to do those rides and not be just completely destroyed afterwards.
I was going to ask you a question, but you kind of just answered your question.
Yeah, I did.
I know if I would be 20 pounds less, I wouldn't have this issue, right? I usually start with people with like what it is that they want to accomplish, right? Because
Right.
a lot of times, if people are right, you're seeing muscles, you're feeling good, you're performing well, and I would ask like, how much more do you want to change? Like, what are you truly chasing? What is the goal that you set for yourself, not the goal that like creates guilt or anxiety or makes you dislike who you are? Because all of us have those things that right inside the thoughts that we have is like, I know this doesn't sound right, but I don't like this part about myself. And I hope to help people rid most of that, especially because as we all age, our physical form changes, right? This is something that, I've talked a lot about with Arnold, because as you can imagine, like, uh, Arnold hates the way most of the times he looks right now, right? Because he compares
No.
himself to how he was when he was 20 or 30 or 40, and he just turned 79 6 days ago, right? And Arnold's still incredibly fit. Oh my God, did you guys see the video of him bicep curling that we posted on Instagram? God, his biceps are
Amazing.
unreal. That old man and his incredible biceps, and so unfair. But Arnold
And
trained
if you
hard.
don't think I didn't feel those biceps when I was working out with him, my hands were all over that man, and he
Easy,
is
April.
amazing.
Easy, April. And yes, they were. We saw. Um, and it's incredible because to me, Arnold looks amazing and stop. He looks unreal for someone who's 79, but he compares himself to his former version of himself. And when I ask him how he reconciles that, he reconciles that he recognizes that like at one point the mountaintop for him was being the best bodybuilder in the world. The goal still is to be the healthiest version he can of himself. But the mountaintop is no longer to be right the best bodybuilder in the world. So he can shift in terms of what the expectation of himself without shifting the accountability. He rides his bike to the gym. He goes to the gym 6 days per week. The accountability is still there, but the expectation is not that I'm going to look like I'm 30 years old when I'm 79. So he can't unsee what he can, but he can reduce the punishment, guilt, because like there are so many things that fill him up. He does not depend his happiness, joy, and fulfillment on how shredded he is. But he does need to train because that helps him mentally, it helps him physically, and it helps him stay around. So when I ask, like I often really want help to help people identify what goals truly matter to them, and is it because it was a goal that you used to have or a goal that you currently have? And if your current goal is truly, I want to be 20 pounds less, and if that's the goal, no one's here to judge any goal. Your goals are your goals, and I'm here to help anyone's goal come true. And if that's the goal, then a nutrition tracker is definitely going to help you because you will be seeing changes and improvements in your performance. You probably will lose some weight. You probably will look a lot better. But 20 pounds isn't like saying like, oh, I want to lose like 2 or 3 or 5 pounds, right? 20 pounds is a considerable amount of weight that needs to be done in a progressive format where you can lose weight, your body will recalibrate, and then you continue to lose weight. And in order to do that effectively, you kind of need to know, which I've been saying, this entire time, what the most amount of food you can eat and still lose. Ride that wave as long as you can, and then when weight loss truly stops, make one of many potential adjustments, but just one, not all of them. Right? That's like when we do the tracker updates, right? I know you're not using the tracker, but it's not like we give a tracker update and then give you like 10 things to change. It's usually like we're going to decrease one serving of carb or one serving of fat or two servings of carbs and no fat, right? We're trying to make one change at a time because the hope is that we can make this one change and then whoosh, you get more weight loss. And this is a sustainable, consistent way for you to do it without you losing your mind while still allowing you to have free choice meals and be able to go out and have dessert or do all this. But if there is no structure, if there is no form of measurement, it becomes very hard for you to know what to adjust, right? But if you were telling me that like you're happy with where you're at, but like you're just obsessed with the number, but you can perform, move, and look the way you want, I'm like, that's great. You're obsessing over a scale for no reason. But if you feel your weight is holding you back from the things that you want to accomplish and the things that you want to do, I do think using the nutrition tracker will help. And I do think that, even as you ease your way in, this is where like we talk about habits or tools all the time. This is where it helps, right? Having certain foundational tent poles that make it easier to eat in a way that supports fat loss will allow you to obsess a lot less over all the things that drive people crazy, Rather than counting calories, I'd rather for you to just be like, do I have protein and fiber in each of my meals? Right? Rather than like worried about like when should I have my meal, I would say I want you to slow down when you eat. Talked about it yesterday on Ketchel's call. The average person eats a meal within 6 to 8 minutes, right? We scarf down our fuel from the actual moment that we start to we stop, right? Some of it we plated, but it's just like, and here's why this matters. It takes approximately, and sometimes even a little bit longer, 20 minutes for your body to metabolize and digest food. So you have to understand your stomach is connected to your brain. There's a satiety center in your stomach that when you eat food, the food is broken down and processed. All the food gets essentially split into all of its component, right? A protein gets broken down into all the amino acids. The amino acids go into an amino acid pool, and then your body will pull from that pool to give your body what it needs. It might take some of those BCAAs to help your muscles recover. It might take all of the amino acids that make up collagen to repair your hair and your skin and your nails. But all food is being broken down. But there's also something in your stomach that when it gets filled up will send a neurochemical signal to your brain saying, whoa, I'm full. So how familiar is it for most people to like eat and eat and eat and be like, I'm still hungry, and they eat and eat and eat more, and then like 30, 60 minutes later, like, oh my God, I'm so full. How did I overeat so much? And all that happened was like you did all of that eating in such a quick period that your body was not able to send the signal up to your brain saying, I'm full, pump the brakes. So I tell most people that if you can make it to 20 to 30 minutes, slow down, be more intentional, chew the food, enjoy it. One, you're going to be more present in the meal. You're going to find more enjoyment in every single thing that you eat. Two, you're working with your body's chemistry so that you're eating slow enough so that if you've had enough, it will send that signal to your brain saying, I'm full. Pump the brakes. People who take longer to eat their meals eat less. And that's somewhat counterintuitive because you think the longer you're sitting there with your food, you should be eating more. But because slower eaters enjoy their food more, slower eaters allow their body to send signals to their brain to tell them to eat less, the consumption goes down. So as you're making these changes, as you're hopefully, right, especially if this is the goal, a nutrition tracker will give you visibility into things that you can do, and then it can also give you progress and adjustments. All of these things will help you accomplish the goals that you want, but protein and fiber is a great habit. Taking less time to eat, and again, one that we talked earlier, the open kitchen, closed kitchen. Ketchel only does the closed kitchen. Some people struggle at the beginning of the day. Creating these parameters by which like help guide how much you eat so that you don't eat out of boredom or distraction or thirst or stress is all incredibly helpful. So build around some of those habits. I would even recommend play around the nutrition tracker where it's just like, I'm gonna learn. I'm not gonna be like judging myself. I'm just to learn. And then you can go from there. But if you find that the goal truly is so that you want to lose that weight, and it's not just because it's just a number, the greatest likelihood of achieving that goal will be using the tracker and making adjustments to your diet because while diet and exercise are both incredibly important to fat loss, and so is sleep for that matter, and so is stress to a certain extent because stress can affect how our hunger works. It's not that stress makes you gain weight, it affects the behavior. Just like we were talking about with the menopause, like so many things affect the behavior, and it's the behavior that affects the change in one way or another. Well, all of these things are valuable. Diet and nutrition plays a far greater part in fat loss than exercise. It's just the way it is. There is no two ways about it. Again, if we look at what makes up our metabolic burn, the majority being the resting metabolism, which is based on our body size, some based on the foods that we eat, some based on the exercise, but the foods and the eat and the exercise, those combined at most are going to be 30% of your metabolism. That's at most.
Oh, wow.
Right? Which means
Okay.
the exercise can be as little as like 10% for some people. So the exercise is great. The exercise changes who you are. The exercise changes even the way that you process food. The more muscle you carry on your body, the more you're able to like resist fluctuations in insulin. So your energy isn't crashing. You're not feeling terrible. You can handle and process carbohydrates more efficiently, right? The more you strength train, the more carbohydrates you can eat, enjoy, and put that in energy. But from a purely caloric standpoint, right? Like it is fighting a losing battle to expect that only if I just exercise will that make the changes. And again, like the less you have to lose, the more like you can depend on that. But it becomes at some point a math equation and being realistic about like how much these things will do. But again, like I don't care. For me, I don't care about the scale, right? I care about how I perform, how I feel, how I show up for people, things like that. But I just want to make sure that your goal is aligned with the scale change and not that the scale is just like this number that you're obsessing over because it's a number.
Okay. It
Does
is a
that help?
number. It does. It does. I I'm I yeah, just double down and work on
We're here to help ask questions in the app, show up to these calls.
yeah.
Nothing is more fun for me than helping people accomplish their goals, especially when they feel frustrating. This is truly the best job in the world. And your
Thank
guys'
you.
questions fuel me, they inspire me, and I appreciate all of you showing up. I do have to go. I could take these questions all day. It's why we're going to start doing these more often. You know, Jen and Nick and Ketch now having all the fun. I'm like, wait a second. I got to get in on all the Zoom call action. So thank you all for showing up. Thank you for your questions. Again, if I didn't get to anything, please leave the questions in the app, and I'll be getting them over today, tomorrow, and the next day, since there are a lot in there already. So be patient with me, but I will get to them. And I hope you all have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.